Okay. 1, 2, 3, smile. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. 1, 2, 3, smile, 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 smile. Like 5. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Community Renewable Energy Agency Board meeting on this 3rd of March, 2025. 3 days, 3.5 days, 168 hours, I heard, since when the legislative session ends, but no one's counting down the hours at this time. I'm Councilmember Dugan, the chair, and I'm going to be turning over to the vice chair, Councilmember Chaburka, to run the meeting because I will be having to step out at 2:15 to go to another appointment. So I appreciate Councilmember Chaburka taking over as chair, and but we'll just start here and we'll just go through the in-person attendees, and then we'll go online.
Drew Quinn, City of Holiday, voting.
Vice Chair Chaburka, Ogden City, voting.
Emily Quinton, Summit County, alternate board member. Looks like I will be voting until Councilmember Armstrong joins.
And we'll go with Patrick Schaefer.
Voting.
Christopher Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Salt Lake City alternate board member. I guess I will be voting when you depart.
Yes, thank you. Joe Frazier.
Joe Frazier, Oakley City. I will be voting.
Melody McCandless. Thanks for joining.
Thanks. Yeah, Melody McCandless, Grand County Commissioner, and I will be voting.
Samantha.
Samantha Pansari, Stewardship, Utah, just listening.
Randy.
Randy Aton, Springdale. I'll be voting.
Nader.
Nader Sabani, Daymark Energy Advisors. I'm just listening in. Thank you.
Nader. Lexi.
Lexi Lamb, City of Moab, voting until Councilmember Myers arrives.
Wonderful. I lost my place there. Chris Crawley.
Hey, Chris Colley, Alta alternate board member, voting today.
Luke Carton, alternate board member until Jeremy Rebel arrives.
Wonderful. David.
David Brams, Immigration Canyon, voting.
Thank you. Dustin.
Thank you, Chair Dugan. Dustin Ghetto, Mayor Midvale, non-voting member.
Kyla.
Kyla Topham, Town of Springdale, alternate, not voting.
Emily Paskett.
Emily Paskett, Salt Lake County, alternate, voting.
Carmen.
Hello all, Carmen Valdez, Hill, Utah, just listening in. Thank you.
Thank you. Pamela.
Pamela Gibson, Town of Castle Valley, voting.
Monica.
Monica O'Malley, Salt Lake City support staff, listening in.
Lorenzo.
Lorenzo Long, Ogden City alternate board member, not voting.
I have a wait for name individual. And if you're on, and please introduce yourself, but otherwise, Mayor Silverstrini is driving to the meeting.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Jeff Silverstrini, I'm voting and I'm on my way, and if I have to, I'll take over for you at 2:15.
Mayor or Councilmember Chaburka is here. Drive safely. We'll be we'll be happy to see you when you're in person. Thanks a lot, everybody. I will turn the time now over to.
Thanks. I got a promotion there to make for a minute, but thank you. Well, thanks everybody for joining. And yes, so I don't think we missed anyone. Looks like we have in the packet the current participation percentage included in the board packet. I don't know if anybody has any questions about that. Nope. Okay. And then approval of February 3rd, 2025 board meeting minutes. If anyone would like to motion to do so.
Councilmember Chaburka, this is Drew Quinn from Holiday. I move that we approve the February 3rd, 2025 board meeting minutes.
Thank you. Can I have a second? Thank you. Do we do a roll call or do we just say? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Great, thanks. That passes. And we have the treasurer's report.
Vice Chair Chaburka, I can step in while the mayor's on the road. The treasurer's report is included in the packet. The one thing that I'll note is that at the end of the treasurer's report, where there's a table where we have a summary of what is spent and what is remaining, per a resolution that the board adopted last month, I have reallocated funds from the communications budget to the program design budget. So you'll see very little funds remaining in communication, more funds remaining in program design, and then I allocated the payments from Midvale into the program design budget as well. So just a little bit of a shift in that final summary table on the treasurer report.
Thank you so much. Any questions about that? Okay, we'll move on to reports from committees. We'll start with the Communications Committee.
Slides this month. I did just want to join and acknowledge that we paid one invoice to Penna Powers from January. I do believe this will be the last invoice we should see for some time until perhaps we need help with a press release subsequent to the board's decision last month to amend the budget to move much of the remaining communications budget into program design. So that invoice was about $1,000, and it mostly supported our last press release. So that's it for me today.
Thanks so much, Chris. Is there any questions or comments for that? All right, we'll move on to the low-income plan. Thank you.
Stepping in here again, this is Emily Quinton with Summit County. As folks know, Samantha DeSealhorst departed her position, and so we don't currently have a facilitator for the low-income plan committee. For folks that are in the committee, hopefully you saw, but I sent an email and sent out a new recurring calendar invite, and so we do have a meeting on the calendar for next Monday. So if you are able to make that, that would be great, and we can just kind of check in as a committee on where we're at, tasks remaining, and if we need and who could kind of play that role as facilitator. I think as all board members know, the low-income plan committee has been in a bit of a holding pattern for a while now, since the low-income plans are done, and it's really not until we actually implement on outreach in those plans when the program is approved that things need to be very active again. So hope to see folks on the committee at the meeting next Monday.
Thanks so much, Emily. Up next, the program design. Is that you, Christopher? You're a little bit broken up and a little quiet, but it might be better online. I don't know if you can speak up just a little bit more. Much better.
I will start going and see how far we get. So I am Christopher Thomas, alternate board member for Salt Lake City, and I convene the program design committee and happy to give an update today. Next slide, please, Kurt. Thank you. Committee membership has stayed the same this month, but the community names are listed. Next slide, please. Key activities. Our committee met twice in February. A small group with some folks from our program design committee and PacifiCorps met once to discuss the program application filing. Just as a reminder, we have 2 dockets currently before the Utah. Okay, let me, I'll turn down my own volume and see if that helps. Okay, so we have our solicitation docket 24-035-55. In that, we filed reply comments on February 13th, and then we met with representatives of the Division of Public Utilities to address some concerns that state office had raised in their initial comments on that docket. And then I actually delivered testimony on behalf of the agency. That was testimony that I worked on with the agency's legal counsel, Phil Russell. Delivered that testimony at a hearing just this past Friday, February 28th. So those were the kind of key activities for that docket. And then we have our second docket, which is our program application docket 25-035-06. And in that docket, we have started drafting testimony, and we did talk to folks from Rocky Mountain Power, and we set a date that we would file testimony. Each of us would file testimony addressing some alternative points of view on a few issues by March 31st. So that is good that we have a date to shoot for to keep things moving along. And I will just say, if I've turned off my own volume, so if there are issues, would somebody, maybe Emily, mind just putting something in the chat? Because then I'll see it, but I can't hear it currently. Kurt, next slide, please. Wonderful, thank you. Awesome, thank you, Emily. And thank you, Kurt. Okay, so here is our program application dashboard. It looks the same as last month. That's because we've not had any additional applications. Oh, online folks are still getting a bunch of feedback. Okay, and then Lorenzo's saying, I think Millcreek needs to mute their own microphones. So I'm just going to pause for 1 second. Let's see here. Okay, great. Thank you, Emily. Okay, great. I am now speaking again. Can anyone hear me? Very good. I will continue. Thank you. Okay, program application dashboard. Nothing has changed. We've had no new initial filings, but some of these will update after March 31st when some of the items that were partially filed are completely filed on March 31st. Next slide, please, Kurt. Okay, thank you. Here is our program application timeline that I show every board meeting. So I've only updated this to indicate that the parallel testimony where Rocky Mountain Power and the Utah Renewable Communities will file testimony on areas of disagreement will be by March 31st. So you can see that in the third highlighted date from the left. So nothing else has shifted on the timeline, which is good. Next slide, please. So today, in terms of topics, I know it's really been program design heavy these last couple of months, and we will continue to be for another couple of months. But actually, that's good because it means things are moving. So topics today I want to address are first, the resource solicitation docket updates. Second, the program application docket updates. Then resolution 25-04, approving publication of a resource solicitation and amending financial administration policy. Then a second resolution, 25-05, recognizing a donation to support regulatory costs. And then I want to finally talk about budgeting for noticing costs in fiscal year 2026, which is right around the corner. Thank you, Kurt. So on the URC resource solicitation, of course, Rocky Mountain Power filed that on November 19th. Then there were some initial comments that were due January 28th, then reply comments on February 13th. In those reply comments, we attempted to address some concerns that have been raised by the Office of Consumer Services and the Division of Public Utilities. And then finally, we held a virtual, well, I shouldn't say we, the Utah Public Service Commission held a virtual hearing this past Friday, February 28th. And the good news coming out of that hearing is that all parties recommended approval of the new solicitation procedures and the agency's proposed solicitation. So that is very good news. I think it makes it fairly likely that the commission will go ahead and approve our solicitation request. Now, that's not to say that there weren't still some concerns. I think, paramount for both the division and the office, or I shouldn't put words in their mouth, but express their concerns that they both had raised were to ensure that as required by law, there are no program costs that are shifted to non-participating customers. And I think what both we and Rocky Mountain Power said is that, we look forward to addressing those issues in the program application docket. And I will note here that Doug Wheelwright from the state of Utah suggests that Millcreek needs to mute its mic. So Doug, sorry, it's noisy, and thank you for your comment. And hopefully the folks in the room will continue to adjust the settings. So I'll just pause for a minute and then get started again. Okay, let's then talk about the URC program application. This was filed by Rocky Mountain Power on January 24 in docket 25-035-06 on the Utah Public Service Commission website. And in this docket, the agency and Rocky Mountain Power agreed that we will file testimony in this docket on March 31st, 2025. And in this testimony, the agency plans to do several things. Number one, we want to be able to give the commission some background on how the program has been developed and why communities think that it is important to pursue. Great, thank you, Lorenzo. We want to address items that were partially filed. We plan to support the elements on which the parties agree. And then on the items where we disagree, we plan to ask the commission to decide which path that it wants to approve between competing viewpoints. And when this testimony is filed, Rocky Mountain Power will ask for a scheduling hearing to be scheduled. So then we'll know the rest of the dates in the program application docket, which will probably involve multiple rounds of testimony and then a hearing. Next slide, please. Very good. So now I'm turning to the resolutions. There are 2 of them. This first resolution, 25-04, would give, the board would give approval to publish a resource solicitation if 2 conditions are met. The first is that the solicitation docket is substantially approved by the Utah Public Service Commission. And number 2, if the board chair approves that publication. The reason why this is important is because it avoids an unnecessary delay that might happen if the commission approval comes right after a board meeting. And, you know, I will say timing is pretty tight on this, where it appears that tax policy for clean energy projects could substantially change between this calendar year and next calendar year, so that it would likely be better to have a project contracted for the program this calendar year. And so basically every month is really important because our current timeline has contracts being signed in November. So if that moves back by 2 months, we're then looking at calendar year 2026. So that's why this resolution would sort of give a pre-approval that says, okay, rather than getting commission approval, waiting, and then having the next board meeting, we just say, if it's substantially approved, which we think it will be based on how the hearing went, and if the board chair says, yes, I believe it's good to go forward, then the publication of the solicitation would go forward. Now, in addition to this resolution, there could be a possible amendment made to the resolution language when it comes up for consideration that would allow the expenditure of up to $20,000 to set up a secure website that would host our solicitation and receive bids from bidders. Now, initially, this resolution was not drafted to allow this initial expenditure prior to the commission actually handing out the order. However, because the hearing went so well in terms of other parties, you know, recommending that it be approved, this is another timing issue to where if this amendment is made and the board so approves, it would let our contractor get started right away in setting up this website. And what they've said is it will probably take about 4 weeks to set up this secure website and test it. So again, because we're on a tight timeline of not wanting contracting to move into next calendar year, it lets us really get a jump on it if somebody makes this amendment and if the board approves it. Okay, The other thing this resolution would do is it would update the board's financial administration policy to make it clear that the resource solicitation is subject to state law rather than Millcreek's procurement code. And you may all recall that Millcreek, as our treasurer, has hosted a couple of competitive solicitations for us, which has been fantastic. And we really appreciate Millcreek, playing that role for the agency. However, when it comes to procuring large-scale electric energy generation resources, that is not subject to Millcreek procurement code and instead is subject to state law and state regulations. Oh, okay. It sounds like it's still pretty bad. Okay, I will keep going and really apologize to folks online. I think probably most important that you can read. Okay, adjust the microphone. Okay, hang on just a sec, folks. Okay, Lorenzo, I just switched my microphone setting. Is that any better? So far, okay, thank you. Okay, so basically the resolution would be the board's financial administration policy, just to make that clear that clean energy resource solicitations is governed specifically by state law and state regulations, not Millcreek's procurement code. And then finally, I did just want to point out, the agency would be undertaking this solicitation at our own expense and at our own risk. However, if we invest some money to publish the resource solicitation and we don't see a sufficient number of bidders or bid fees to help offset the cost, then we've reserved the right to terminate the solicitation for any reason. So that is kind of our backstop to where if we move forward with the first part, which is publishing the solicitation, we can pull the plug and save those dollars if it doesn't look like we're seeing a big response from bidders. However, I will say we held an informal open house for developers in January, and it was very well attended by probably around 35 clean energy development companies. So based on all that, I do expect a pretty robust response as of now. Next slide, please.
Christopher, do you think we should ask for questions about that?
Very good. Resolution 25-05 is the second resolution. This would recognize a donation from Stewardship Utah to support regulatory costs associated with our program application docket, which is that second docket, up to $50,000. Yes, question from Vice Chair Choburka.
I'm so sorry, Christopher. I was just wondering if anyone had questions about that prior resolution 25-04 before you moved on. I'm not seeing any hands at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, yes, back to the donation. So, I am really grateful for Stewardship Utah stepping forward to help support some of our costs. We've looked at our remaining program design budget. We've made some shifting in our budget to try to make sure that we have enough resources to both get through approval of our program application docket and grant solicitation, and this certainly helps. So this donation would only support our legal expenses and our expert consultant expenses associated with this program application docket. And to help us with this, our outside counsel, James Dodge Russell and Stevens, has agreed to send us a separate invoice for legal expenses and expert fees related to that specific docket. So what's nice about that is then we don't have to go through and code each invoice for which are the right expenditures. We'll just get a separate invoice. And so what this resolution spells out is that the Program Design Committee would forward an invoice showing the regulatory costs to Stewardship Utah on a monthly basis and ask if they will send us a donation check to Millcreek as the agency's treasurer until the maximum donation is reached or until the program application docket concludes. So if let's say the program application docket concludes after only $40,000 worth of expenses, then the donation would stop there. But if the program application, would go to $60,000 of expenses like we currently expect, then we would keep forwarding these invoices and asking for donations up until the point $50,000 is reached. So thank you to Stewardship Utah for being willing to offer this donation. Next slide, please. Okay, so we've talked about 2 resolutions. Now I'm switching focus to talk about noticing costs. So we've not talked as a board about noticing costs for quite a long time. Although I think I did provide some guidance, budgeting guidance to the board, I want to say back in 2023 for fiscal year 2024. But then we weren't sure exactly when the program application was going to be filed, and therefore we weren't really sure when the noticing would happen. But now that we're on track with the program application, I think it's really good to budget for noticing costs fiscal year 2026. And so I know for municipalities, we're probably already in the thick of budgeting to some extent, and then counties will budget at the end of the year. So anyway, I thought it would be good to provide some fresh budgeting guidance. So if you all will recall, the Community Clean Energy Act requires communities to cover the initial noticing cost. And the Act and associated rules require 2 initial notices be sent before customers in participating communities would be automatically enrolled. So if they receive a notice and they opt out, then they're not enrolled. But if they don't opt out, then they're enrolled after the noticing period. So we've been, budgeting for and planning for what we think it will cost each of our communities, member communities, to cover this noticing cost. Now, unfortunately, since 2020, I was just reviewing a lot of my notes. Since 2020, the estimated cost per mailer, which includes both the paper, the envelope, and the postage, has more than doubled from 41 cents to 87 cents. So through the course of our negotiations with Rocky Mountain Power, we have discussed with them sending the first notice by mail, so with the postage and the envelope and everything, to all customers. So the first notice goes to all customers by mail, but sending the second notice by email only to the customers who are enrolled in electronic billing. And then all the customers who are not enrolled in electronic billing would receive both notices by mail. So again, this would save us on some mailing costs because we would be sending the second notice by email, but only to those customers who've already registered and are enrolled in electronic billing. So one would think that these customers are looking for communications from the utility by email. So that is factored into the new budget guidance that I'm going to present. The other thing I'll note is the number of customers in each community also changes from year to year. You can see a slight increase or you can see a slight decrease in the number of customers. And that also can impact the budgeting guidance. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is going to be hard to read if you are online and just looking at the meeting window. But this is basically a spreadsheet trying to show for every community, if we send the first notice by mail to everyone, and the second notice is kind of divided between email for those enrolled in electronic billing and by mail to those who are not, what the costs project out to be. So that's in the yellow column. In the green column, I'm showing the previous budget guidance that we discussed back in, I want to say, 2023. And then in the red column, that would be incurred if we sent all customers both notices by mail. So that's kind of the most expensive option. And I'm just providing that for kind of information only, that, you know, if your community wants to budget for this higher number, you know, you certainly can. However, what I'm going to recommend to all of our communities is that you stick with the number in green, which is the exact same number for budget guidance that we shared with you back in 2023. And the only one we don't have a number there for is Midvale, because they were not then a member of our agency. So next slide, please. So for the final budget guidance, it's displayed on this slide. This number should be more than enough to cover a first mailed notice, and then a second notice emailed for people enrolled in electronic billing, and a paper notice for everybody who's not. And these should be all the same numbers that you've already hopefully budgeted for, that was shared previously. And the only one that is added here is for Midvale. And that number reflects exactly what it should cost to send the first mail notice by mail, and the second notice divided, some by mail to those not enrolled in electronic billing, and an email to those who are in electronic billing. So let me pause there, if I could, Madam Chair, to see if there are any questions.
I believe there's at least one.
Great.
Hey, Chris, this is Dustin. Some questions, well, one question about Midvale specifically. As we start to factor in our customers here, 17,000, about 18,000 of them, and budgetary impacts, I'm still just a little concerned, and hopefully you could provide some clarification, or the chair here, when Midvale will become a voting member of the board. As we see these, you know, significant budgetary impacts, I'd like to at least have our voice heard as far as voting member goes.
Yeah, Mayor Gettle, thank you for that question. I totally understand. So my recollection is that Midvale will become a voting member when it adopts the ordinance to join the program. And then the noticing costs are not actually incurred until after that time, because just the kind of the sequence is, the program would hopefully get approved by the commission, then Midvale and all the other 18 communities have 90 days to make a decision of whether they want to adopt an ordinance. If Midvale adopted an ordinance at that time, my recollection is you will become a voting member, and then the noticing costs become due as Rocky Mountain Power starts to send out notices to Midvale residents and businesses about the program. And that, I think we've scheduled to have that happen maybe 3 to 4 months after ordinance adoption.
Okay, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
think we'd be interested though if there's any feedback from Midvale, if there's, feedback that you have.
Well, my feedback is I've heard this. This has been the answer I've heard from a number of people. It seems strange to me other communities who are already voting members and have paid.
And I guess the only thing I would say about that, and I don't know if Christopher has additional comment or Mayor Silvestrini, but we're actually kind of all in the same boat in a way. We've paid the initial payments to organize the agency, but then we all actually will be making a decision after the commission accepts our proposal. Every community will need to reconsider the ordinance in order to be a full participant in the program as it moves forward. Is that kind of what you were asking about? You bet. And then Mayor Silverstein has a...
Yes, so Mayor, I think there are a couple things. Midvale's paid one installment, I think. It hasn't paid the second installment, as I understand how that works. So you're half in compared to the rest of us. That's one thing. But that's just really the rule that we determined when we were adding additional players on this. And, I don't know. I mean, we haven't ever had an issue where there was a split vote or anything like that. And Councilmember Chaburka is correct that all of us have a decision to make when we find out what the approved rate that the Public Service Commission sets for this program will be. Then all of us will have to make a decision about whether to go forward and participate or not. Yeah, so there are not any others because Midvale is the only additional community that joined, when the window opened up the second time. I think if you want to pay all the rest of your money, we would be happy to elevate you to a voting member.
Christopher, it looked like you had something you might want to say.
Christopher, is your sound on?
agreed. It sounds like we'd be interested. Please. Okay.
To budget for these is because the state law specifically requires communities to cover these initial noticing costs. However, going forward, once the program is approved, if it's approved, then the ongoing noticing costs would then be covered through the program rate paid by participating customers. So my hope is that this is the last budgetary impact for our communities and to get this program up and off the ground. Next slide, please. Okay, I wanted to cover just a few pieces of Utah legislation that we've talked about before. I'm going to try to do this really quickly so the board has time to consider resolutions. Oh, yep, we want to wrap up by 3 p.m. You know what? I will not cover this Utah legislation slide, but please do feel free to read it. I've updated it slightly from the board packet, but Emily, thank you. I know you post these revised slides to the website, so please do review these if you're interested. Next slide, please. Okay, Utah legislative session. Hopefully we will be publishing a resource solicitation upon commission approval and approval by the board chair. Please do look at your budgets for fiscal year 2026 using the guidance that is included in these slides. We're planning to meet with folks from the Office of Consumer Services March 6th, and we will be planning to file testimony in the program application docket March 31st. Madam Chair, that is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Christopher, and apologies for the technological difficulties. So up next, we have time for public comments, and this means any audience member can bring an item to the board's attention, and we'd love to take those now. If you'd like to raise your hand or just take yourself off mute to make comment. We don't have anyone here in the audience. Okay, I'm not seeing anyone, but please, if you're trying to take yourself off mute or anything, just continue to do so. We'll move on to the discussion and consideration for resolution 25-4, and that's a resolution that Christopher was just covering. If anyone has any discussion items or questions, we'd be happy to take them now, or a motion.
Madam Chair, Jeff Silvestrini, I will make a motion to approve Resolution 25-04.
Madam Chair, based on Christopher's talk about needing the $20,000 to set up a secure solicitation website, I also move to amend Resolution 25-04 and add a new first paragraph, excuse me, that reads, quote, "The board authorizes the expenditure of up to $20,000 to set up a secure solicitation website prior to approval of the solicitation application," end of quote. All remaining paragraphs would be renumbered.
So I second that motion.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you all. Thank you. The next item is for discussion and consideration, Resolution 25-05. Any discussion or a motion?
Okay, so Jeff Silvestrini, I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 25-05 for for the board to recognize a donation to support regulatory costs. And I appreciate the donation. It's appreciated. Thanks a lot. And I think we've cleared the way for the mechanics of how that will work.
Second.
I have a motion by Mayor Silverstini, a second by Emily. And yes, we appreciate that donation so much. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you all so much. And those two pass. Any comments from our board members?
This is Jeff Silverstream. I just want to thank Christopher and Chair Dugan and Emily for their work with respect to getting the filing done and working with Rocky Mountain Power and finally seeing some light of day with respect to this process. So thanks you guys for that hard work and for thinking ahead about the resource solicitation and all those things. So it's nice to have you doing that for us.
Agreed. Any other comments? Oh, yes, go ahead, Christopher.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I did want to mention that our agency was nominated for an award and is being considered for an award at the Intermittent Sustainability Summit hosted by Weber State University in Ogden on March 20th. So some of you may already be planning to attend. Others of you, may have been on the fence, but just so you all know, we are being considered for an award that will be announced on March 20th. And I believe the lunch and ceremony is around 12:40. If you have any other questions, please about the Intermountain Sustainability Summit, please let me know, or also please feel free to let Lorenzo from Ogden City know. Thank you.
It's a great event. I've been there several times and we presented together. Was that just last year or the year before? 2 years. Ooh, where's the time go? Yeah, it's incredible. And thanks everybody for your hard work. Anybody like to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you all so much. Have a great day.